Welcome to our City of Bowie Monday, April 20 meeting. I'm Mayor Stav. I'm joined by my colleagues here tonight, Councilmember District 4 Roxanne DeBumadu, Councilmember District 3 Clinton Truesdale, Councilmember at Large Dennis Brady, Councilmember at Large Wanda Rogers, and Mayor Pro Tem Dufour Wolfley. If anyone is interested in speaking tonight, either in general to the City Council, in a couple minutes about any topic you'd like to talk about for about 3 minutes, and you haven't already, feel welcome to see Ms. Awilda Hernandez on the far left over there, our city clerk, and sign your name to let her know that you want to sign up to speak. We have a couple of agenda items tonight that are eligible for action and have public hearings involved. If you want to speak on any of those, feel welcome to wander over now to Ms. Awilda Hernandez, city clerk, to sign up. That way we can make sure that you are heard on the record. For those who are able, please join me in standing to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a quorum this evening with all 6 present. We're going to move to agenda additions, deletions, and amendments. We have one addition to the meeting tonight to move to statutory authority to close session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, and any other personnel matter that affect one or more specific individual. With the consent of my colleagues, might we add that to our closed session agenda this evening?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. Thank you, team. We have that reflected in the meeting minutes. Thank you, Ms. Awilda Hernandez, clerk. Any other agenda addition, deletions, or amendments from any of my colleagues? Going twice. All right. We will move to citizen participation. Madam City Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam City Clerk. We will start off tonight with Miss Diane Palangan. For those of you who don't know, Diane Palangan served on the City Council for many years. It is a pleasure seeing you tonight, Ms. Palangan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Mr. Mayor, I really wanted to have this for you last week so your family could enjoy it, and I didn't get the true inspiration until I saw you sworn in. And then I ran home and I started writing like crazy. So we spoke a couple of weeks ago and you mentioned that you still had the poem I wrote for you when you were Eagle Scout. Mm-hmm. Well, now I have this one, From Eagle Scout to Mayor. From knotted rope and compass true, at 18, skies were wide and blue. Michael, an Eagle Scout, stood tall, already hearing duty's call. Through forest paths and quiet nights, he learned to lead, to stand for right, to serve, to build, to lend his hand, and leave his mark upon the land. Badges earned with patient grace, each one a step, a tested place. Not just its skill, but who he'd be when he called to shape community. The years moved on as years will do, with roads unknown and shifting view. Yet still that promise, bright and clear, echoed softly year by year. At 35, the oath he takes is more than title, more than stakes. For in his voice the people hear a servant's call, both strong and near. From campfire glow to city light, from starry maps to civic life, the trail he walked was never small. It led him here to serve them all. In Bowie, where the pathways meet, he walks with purpose through each street. A mayor now, yet still the same. A heart of service lights his name. And eagle's wings still guide his flight through halls of day and watch of night. For leadership in truest form is forged where quiet vows are sworn. I'm so proud of you, Michael.
Well, with that, I don't think there's any other business we need to conduct tonight, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let the record reflect that all future testimony will be given in poem form. I hope you all prepare your rhyming. Thank you so much for the extremely kind words, more generous than I deserve, and I'm grateful to you, Diane.
I've watched you, Michael, since you did your Eagle Scout, and I'm incredibly proud of you.
Well, my job then will be to not let you down. I will turn us now to Mr. Scott Vining.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for taking my time here. Going on basically the same old tune with regard to speedways on the road and everything, and it would be really nice to see the matter addressed. I've heard that it's going to happen at some point in time. I just want to say that if somebody could advise me where to get a radar gun, I would. So you all could have evidence of everything. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And that concludes citizen participation. I will move us to presentations. This evening we have a guest from the City Diversity Committee who will be giving us a presentation. Please come on up to the microphone.
But if you would like for me to rap, I'll do that. No, just kidding.
That'll work.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Carla Carter. I'm the current chair of the City of Bowie Diversity Committee, and I'm honored to represent the committee in recognizing the rich contributions and numerous achievements of Arab Americans to our nation and local communities. National Arab American Heritage Month celebrates the contributions, culture, and history of Arab Americans each April. Advocacy for national recognition gained momentum around 2017, and in 2019, members of Congress introduced resolutions expressing support for recognizing April as Arab American Heritage Month. In April of 2021, then President Joseph Biden sent a letter to Arab America and the Arab American Foundation congratulating those celebrating National Arab American Heritage Month for their work and advocacy on behalf of the many Arab Americans living within this community. In March of 2023, President Biden signed the first presidential proclamation designating April as Arab American Heritage Month. To illustrate the meaningful impact of Arab Americans across literature, healthcare, and public service, I'd like to highlight a few individuals whose work reflects excellence, leadership, and community commitment. Iman Kutar, a Saudi Arabian award-winning novelist and essayist based in Rockville, Maryland. Her debut novel, Bride of the Sea, won the Arab American Book Award for fiction and explores identity, family, and immigration through Arab and Muslim American experiences. Her second novel, The Night Is Not For You, continues to center themes of belonging and resilience. She's a recipient of fellowships from McDonald and Hedgebrook, along with grants from the Maryland State Arts Council and the Arts and Humanities Council of Montgomery County. Her work has appeared in the Washington Post, USA Today, and Literary Hub. The second person is Dr. Omar Salah Timo, a first-generation Palestinian-American neurosurgeon and healthcare leader based in Baltimore, Maryland. He is board certified and fellowship trained in stereotactic and functional neurosurgery and serves as a director of the LifeBridge Health Comprehensive Spine Center and Functional surgery program. His work focuses on minimally invasive spine surgery, deep brain stimulation, and epilepsy surgery, while emphasizing patient-centered care and non-surgical options when possible. He's also an active advocate within the Arab American community and serves on the board of the Arab American Foundation. The last person is Miriam Kamal. She's the youngest member and the first Arab and Muslim woman to serve on Prince George's County's Democratic Central Committee. Her commitment to public service is helping elevate youth leadership and expand representation for Arab Americans within local government. National Arab American Heritage Month also serves as an important opportunity to deepen understanding, celebrate cultural traditions, and uplift the diverse voices within the Arab American community. It is a time to honor past and present contributions, but also to foster greater inclusion, challenge misconceptions, and strengthen the sense of belonging for Arab Americans in every community. Mayor and council members, thank you for your ongoing support and commitment to equity and representation. The Diversity Committee stands ready to partner with you on initiatives that continue to uplift all of the members of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your work. Thank you for coming out tonight. And if I'm not mistaken, the Diversity Committee still has one vacancy. So if there's anyone who's interested in joining the City Diversity Committee, feel welcome and come grab one of us at some point before we leave this evening. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes presentations. I will move us to city boards and committees. We have 3 appointments tonight, 2 for the Arts Committee and 1 for the Education Committee. I'll start with the Education Committee. Ms. Dion Meir Clark was interviewed on April 6, 2026 for appointment to the Education Committee. Council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a regular member for a 2-year term. Councilmember Ndebu Madu, would you like to formally move to appoint Ms. Meir Clark?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to move to appoint Ms. Dion Meir Clark to the Education Committee as a regular member for a 2-year term.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay. And with that, Ms. Meir Clark is appointed to the Education Committee. We're going to do the other 2, and then I'll invite all 3 appointees to come up once we've appointed everyone. Ms. Natalia Aguilar was interviewed on April 6, 2026 for appointment to the Arts Committee. Council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a regular member for a 2-year term. I'd like to move to appoint Ms. Natalia Aguilar formally as a regular member of the Arts Committee for a 2-year term. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Ms. Natalia Aguilar is so appointed. Ms. Joan Conway was interviewed on April 6, 2026 for appointment to the Arts Committee. Council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a regular member for a 2-year term. I'd like to formally move to appoint Ms. Joan Conway to the Arts Committee. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Ms. Joan Conway is so appointed. Could I invite, if they're available, Ms. Aguilar, Ms. Meir Clark, and Ms. Conway to please come stand right in front of the dais here, and we will formally swear you in. My colleagues all have to stand near me or the magic doesn't work.
You're going to hold them up.
That's right. So if you could do me a favor and raise your right hands. Now, here's the tricky part. I need you to choose what you prefer, the word swear or the word affirm. Just pick one in your head. Affirm works? All right, we'll do that. So you're going to repeat after me, I, and then state your name one at a time. I,
Joan Conway.
Natalia Aguilar. Dion Meir Clark.
and then all together, do affirm
Do affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland,
to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the constitutions and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of regular member
execute the office of regular member
and then state the committee name one at a time.
of the Arts Committee
Of the Arts Committee.
Of the Education Committee.
Beautiful. According to the Constitution and laws of the state.
according to the Constitution and laws of this state.
Congratulations. You will come up.
Okay.
And so folks are aware the city has a ton of public committees. They are relatively easy to join. They are meant to be available to the public to advise us on a whole range of issues. Please visit cityofbowie.org to see available vacancies on all of our committees. And thank you to our guest tonight for signing up for your 17-year term. The pay is terrible. I will move us to council announcements. Do any of my colleagues have any announcements tonight? Seeing none to my left, seeing none to my right. Okay. Just as a reminder, we have a packed week. Tomorrow, Tuesday night at 7 p.m., the City Council and staff will gather in Southlake in District 4 at 7 p.m. due to the first of 2 special budget listening sessions this week. This is where staff will give a short 5 to 10 minute presentation on the facts of the budget, and it's one of many opportunities for the public to come see us in person outside of City Hall. Tell us your thoughts on the budget. As you all know, we are facing a $20 million shortfall this year, so we're going to be looking at a mix of tax increases and cuts to help fill that shortfall, and we kind of want impressions from the public on what you're comfortable with, what you'd like us to prioritize and think about. So that'll be an open forum on Tuesday at Southlake at 7 p.m. The city's putting out more written information about that. This Thursday at 7, we have
Mr.
another.
Mayor?
Oh, yes.
Where in Southlake?
I can share the details. I'll give you the address. But it's at the clubhouse at Southlake.
The clubhouse, thank you.
Yes, sir. And then at 7 p.m. On Thursday at the Ken Hill Center is the second of 2 budget listening sessions this week. Exact same deal. Residents are welcome to attend either or both. And then this Saturday, we are celebrating Arbor Day at 10 a.m. At the park right by
Acorn Hill.
Acorn Hill. Thank you, Council Member Brady. Acorn Hill Park off of Superior Lane. And we also have this Saturday our Walk to End Domestic Violence at Allen Pond Park. It's at 11 or 10? Or no, it's at City Hall. Centennial Park. So right outside City Hall. What time, Lori? 10 a.m., also 10 a.m. So you have to choose between the environment or domestic violence. I'm so sorry. And then anything else from any of my colleagues? Cool. I will move us to City Manager's Report. Anything from staff tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Daniel Mears, Acting City Manager. Just to give the addresses of the budget listening sessions, the Tuesday, April 21 is at Fairmont at Southlake. That is located at 620 Fairmont Drive. And the one at the Ken Hill Center on Thursday, April 23rd at 7 p.m. is at 2614 Ken Hill Drive.
And I know this is on social media, confirming we're also putting it out via text as well in all of our Alert Buoy. Wonderful.
We are sending those, and that brings me to the second part of the message I wanted to deliver this evening was in regards to Alert Buoy. Recently, we've had a number of things that we have pushed out via Alert Buoy, and we do hear from time to time from our constituents that they would like to know what is going on. And this is a good time to put in a plug for Alert Buoy. This is fully customizable for our constituents in regards to the type of information that they would like to receive. Simply go to our website, cityofbowie.org, and there is a link to sign up for Alert Alert Buoy. You can receive messages via text, via email, telephone, smartphone app, and you get to choose the type of messages that you receive as well. If you're looking for emergency notifications, public safety notifications, notifications about things going on with the city of Bowie, you have full flexibility to decide what information you'd like to receive and what format you'd like to receive it on. So I would like to encourage everyone to sign up for Alert Buoy. We have several thousands of people that are currently signed up, but it is still far short from everyone in the city. That's
I think
all for
we've
my
got
report.
over 10,000 subscribers, right? I want to say.
That could be. It's going to be around there, yes.
Yeah. So let's pump that up. If you just Google Alert Buoy, it's the first thing that comes up. Super easy. You'll find out about all the missing cats as well as all the events. And you can, as the city manager said, acting city manager, you can pick and choose what you want to hear about. Thank you, sir. Anything else tonight?
That's all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move right along to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. We have consent. Moving us right along to old business, our first item tonight is the adoption of Ordinance O-4-26, amending the adopted budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 20, 2026 as embodied in the Ordinance O-4-25 and amended by Ordinance O-11-25, O-1325, O-126, and O-326 to appropriate funds for the following projects: $48,300 to fund the replacement of vehicle number 14 and $125,000 to the administration of the April 7, 2026 mayoral election. This is a public hearing and eligible for action. I will turn this over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things to add in regards to this. So from time to time, things occur throughout the year that are unanticipated, and they do cost money. So we have the opportunity to amend the budget to ensure that we have the resources allocated to be able to take care of those. The first one for the replacement vehicle allows us to replace the vehicle and get the full insurance replacement value for that vehicle from the city's insurance carrier, and then of course the funds associated with the election because we had one very recently. That's all this evening.
Thank you, sir. There is a public hearing attached to this. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? Madam City Clerk.
Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up, and no comments were received via email.
Understood. Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion on the adoption of Ordinance O-4-26?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval adoption of Ordinance 0-4-26.
Do I hear a second? It is moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Moving on to new business. Item A, request for council approval, new speed camera locations. This is eligible for action. I will turn this over to city staff.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So before you this evening is a request for several new speed camera locations. As part of the Maryland state law, there is a requirement whenever we add a new location for a speed camera that we do so publicly, and the City Council takes action associated with it. We have those locations available in your packet this evening. If you have any questions about the locations or what we're doing, we're available to answer those questions.
Thank you, sir. I will turn this over to my colleagues for any discussion unless we have something from staff further. Deputy Chief Liberati is making his way over to the staff dais.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Deputy Chief Robert Liberati. Yes, there are 5 streets that we propose to place speed cameras on. The first one is the 3400 block of Mitchellville Road. We already have a camera down in the 2400 block. We asked for permission from the county to place a camera on the 3500 block, and the county granted us permission. This, as well as the other 4 locations, are either suggestions from police department staff, council, or citizenry about complaints reference to high-speed driving and related negligent driving. The other locations, 2829, 3000, and 3100 block of Stony Brook Drive, 31 and 3200 block of Superior Lane, 3400 and 3500 blocks of Moylan Drive, and the 300, 600, 700, and 900 block of Jennings Mill Drive.
Before I say anything, do any of my colleagues have any thoughts, any questions for Deputy Chief Liberati? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chief, Deputy Chief, for being here this evening. This is a program that's near and dear to my heart. I think it's done a world of good in terms of slowing people down. We cannot afford to have police officers on every corner of every street in the city at all times to keep an eye out for drivers. So this does provide an alternative, and it's worked well, and I do appreciate that. Question for you. The streets that you have included here, you made mention that they've been raised because of observations. Are we in a position we can add some additional? Because I do know, for example, that Trinity Drive has long been a problem for us, and I think it's the 3000 and the 3100 blocks of Trinity in that area that have been problematic. I don't know, just off the top of mind, that comes to mind. I would also put out a marker here, which is, and would want to engage in a little bit of discussion with you on this, which is the ability to put out a whole host of different locations without necessarily increasing the number of cameras, so that we have, for example, another 25 or 50 camera box locations, but yet rotate the cameras around so that there's an opportunity to keep everybody on their toes in all places. Because I think what I've observed is that it's not just cameras that slow people down, it's camera boxes. And the potential for there being a camera in there, it's a bit like Las Vegas, right? People keep coming back because they're going to hit the big one someday. Well, people are going to slow down because they don't want to get tapped with that fine. And it also serves as a visual reminder, and it does slow people down. What are the potential opportunities for both Trinity and then expanding beyond in terms of the scope of locations, but not necessarily cameras?
Currently, we have 41 advertised locations between residential zone and school zone cameras. School zone cameras by Maryland law and the city code run from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. The residential zone are 24/7. So currently we have 41. There is no limit to the number we can add. Our contract, however, limits us to 12 operating cameras. So as you said, we could put the boxes or set up pads anywhere and rotate the cameras around, and that's what we propose to do.
All right, excellent. I also noted that on, let's see, that would be on Tulip Grove Drive, there was at one point there was a box there, but now there's the concrete pad is there, but no box. What's the story on that?
The vendor took it. Our contract doesn't specify necessarily that we have a certain number of vacant boxes. We can request that. That's relatively cheap. Or we can put up our own phantom boxes, on our own, just to have that deterrent effect. And it provides a halo type also, where a halo type of feeling also, where drivers don't know which ones are active and which ones are not, so they're careful wherever they are, and including the area around them, because they're not sure where they start and where they stop.
Excellent, thank you. Well, those are my concerns, and I'm glad that you're able to address them. And I think, as we're going into the next budget year. I know this is going to be a lean year, but this is a program that actually generates revenue that supports itself, and moreover, it's got a bigger imperative, which is improving the safety in our community on our roads, and I really appreciate the effort on this. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing boxes on Trinity and Tulip and every street corner and every corner of the city. Thank you.
And just so I'm clear, are we adding the 3,000 and 3,100 block of Trinity Drive now, or would you like me to come back with another resolution?
I'd like to be able to do it now if we could, if my colleagues have consensus on that. If we could do that now, that would be great. And then, of course, in general, expand it, as you say, with the phantom boxes and improve the distribution. That'd be great.
Very good.
Thank you.
So I believe we have a general consensus from the council to add 3,100 Trinity now. Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is, does this help with the elementary school? Okay, that's what I needed. Thank you very much.
Do any of my colleagues have any other questions or thoughts for Deputy Chief Liberati? All right. Please, Councilmember Brady.
Thank you. I don't know if my colleague stole my thunder or finally came around to my way of thinking, because I've been saying for some time, both privately with staff and publicly, that I wanted to see all of our locations where we have concrete pads for the camera enclosures to have an enclosure and just worry about moving the 12 cameras around, because that's limited by our contract. Because I think the cameras are, I won't say superfluous, but rather they're the ones that capture those that are running through them. The enclosures are the ones that the people see. And it doesn't matter to me whether there's a camera in there or not. They have an effectiveness. And I'd like to see this move forward in a way that we can have all of the sites that we designate have an enclosure there. I'm not worried about the cameras, but have an enclosure there. So I support the suggestion. As I said, I've been saying it for some time, so thank you.
Councilmember Brady had a good idea that spread to the rest of his colleagues. Thank you, Councilmember. I have a question and a comment. What is the manual staff time like moving the cameras around? So we've got 12 actual cameras. We might end up with 20 locations. How often are they being moved around? What's involved? And roughly what does it cost us in terms of resources?
It doesn't cost us any more. What we do is we look at the number of violations when we see a big drop where the cameras are what we call loss leaders. They're not bringing in the revenue to cover the cost of the camera, then we consider moving them. That isn't the only consideration. Certainly if it's a loss leader but it's in a critical location, then its job is to prevent and to get the violators, especially if they're high speeds and there's few violators. But we make the request through our vendors, and the vendor makes the moves. Generally, we do this through the Traffic Management Committee. The committee makes recommendations, and then the police department goes back to the vendor, Elevate, which is our speed camera vendor, to make the changes.
And roughly, what does it cost us to run this program?
It is 30, I got it here somewhere.
If you don't have the exact number, an email to the council after will be just fine.
It's $3,485 per camera per month. Total for the 12 cameras is $501,840. So roughly $500,000 to run those 12 cameras 12 months a year.
This is about a $500,000 program for the 12 cameras. And if you don't have the number, you can just email us later. Can you give us a rough estimate of how much we pulled in fines?
That I'll have to double check on.
That's quite all right, quite all right. I think the point that I'm trying to make for folks at home is these cameras are not, by and large, generating a ton of money for the city. On a good year, I think they're maybe paying for themselves. but they're really just creating a deterrence for speeding, and they tend to be surprisingly less controversial than speed humps, which everyone wants everywhere but for their driveway. I have 2 additional locations I would like to request us to include, Deputy Chief. The first one is the area of 12200 Rockledge Drive, and the second is the area of 12400 Rockledge Drive. And feel welcome to follow up with me if either of those addresses don't make any sense to you whatsoever. I'll happily talk to you later. Do I have any? Oh yeah, Councilmember Rogers.
One I just want to put out there for consideration is Pin Oak Parkway. That's one that I get, I forgot to mention that. I get a lot of feedback on the speed through that road. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and I'm actually pulling up Pin Oak Parkway on the map. Was there a particular block roughly or an area that you might know where the complaints were coming from?
I can't give you a specific block. It seems like it's the whole.
Just everywhere along? Okay. That particular street is extremely long. Would you be comfortable with us following up with staff this week to get an address? But we can, tonight, if we have council consensus approved, placing at least one on Pin Oak, and we can, perfect. All right, so consensus for one on Pin Oak. Deputy Chief's starting to sweat. He's like, oh no, there's so many more. But we'll get you an exact address this week, Deputy Chief. Any other, oh please, I'm sorry, Councilmember Ndibu Madu.
Thank you so much, Mayor Stev. While this is not the probably appropriate agenda item to discuss this, I did forward a number of different streets throughout District 4 that need to be prioritized for speed safety solutions. So I just wanted to raise that for my constituency who might be watching, who might be wondering why I'm not asking something. I'll bring that up in another format while we go through the budget section. Thank you.
Understood. Are there any locations in particular? I know we got Jennings Mill Drive tonight. Are there any locations in particular where you might want a camera specifically? Or
I don't think my solution is to add more cameras throughout District 4, but I did send the particular streets of concern to our city manager during the last meeting.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Any other questions or thoughts for staff? Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a quick comment. It appears that the estimated or proposed budget looks like total traffic infractions of $1.5 million is what's anticipated for the next fiscal year. But I think that's all infractions, not just speed cameras, but that gives you, I think the vast majority of those are, in fact, camera related.
Well, there we go. So if that's the case, we're in the money, everyone. All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay. Do you need anything else from us, Deputy Chief or Mr. Acting City Manager?
I think just a motion this evening.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the locations as been amended by the council here this evening.
I hear a motion and a second. Any question on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you so much, Deputy Chief, and thank you, staff.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item B under new business, opportunities for county funding. I see we have a memo from the acting city manager. I will turn it over to staff to give us a summary.
Back in March, our District 4 County Council member Adams his office had reached out to staff indicating that he was looking for ideas from the city that he could potentially fund through the county budget. They were looking for a fairly short turnaround in regards to response on that, where we were not going to have a city council meeting in between when the request was made and when he desired to have the information. So city staff prepared, based on prior discussions with the council, a list of 3 items that could potentially be funded through the county budget. One was for environmental remediation. The second was for a project that is contained within the city's budget, which is a town center strategic plan. And the third item was regional recreational support. And that was in line with county funding that that we already receive in support of Allen Pond Park as a regional amenity, and we sought to expand that to the golf course and new ice rink location up on 197, so we were looking for support for those. There was a request by City Council to discuss those items formally here amongst the City Council. I think we have opportunity, if there are different priorities that the City Council wishes to convey to his office, we're glad to hear those and forward those on.
Wonderful. I believe it was Councilmember Ndibumadu who first brought this to us. Councilmember, was there anything in particular you wanted to discuss beyond what the acting city manager shared tonight?
Let the conversation unfold.
Roger that. Thank you, Councilmember. Do any of my colleagues have any thoughts, any questions? Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you. So in light of the budget deficit, are these three items still relevant? Do they defer cost or replace costs for things that we would normally have to pay for out of city budget?
So only one of these items is directly related to something that's included in the budget, and that is the proposed planning for Bowie Town Center. So that was included as a cost item in this budget. However, the environmental remediation is a cost that we anticipate having. It's actually one that Councilmember Adams had specifically inquired as to whether or not we would inquire of him. So we had that included in there. The third one, in regards to dollars to support regional recreational amenities, that's not tied specifically to anything in the budget today, but it would be in general, a new revenue source that we would then apply to our ongoing operations. So each year the city does receive some funding, a little bit of funding from the county in support of Allen Pond Park, and that does help defray some of the costs of operating that facility. So the idea was to expand that concept.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other thoughts or questions from any of my colleagues?
Sure.
Councilmember Brady.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw this partly short-term from what you said in the memo and what have you, but also more of a long-term plan to deal with the county. For the longest time, the revenue, or the funds we got for Allen Pond were helpful, but not really a large amount, nor did they really ever raise them. It was always a fight to try and get them to raise. But I think we need to have a discussion, because what they do with Allen Pond to help, and the rationale there is the fact that there are many users of the Allen Pond that are county residents that pay no taxes to the city to help support it. They do pay to the county, but not to the city. I think we ought to look and suggest that all of our recreational facilities where county residents take advantage of them ought to come under that umbrella of county support, which would be our gym, our ball fields, the golf course, and the ice rink, and look to kind of a bigger, expanding one, and more of arguing in the future, because it probably won't happen this budget year, but we need to start developing the argument with that. And to that end, I think we ought to start looking at doing informal surveys periodically to try and get the data that supports the suggestion that county residents are using city facilities. You know, how many people are showing up? Just do informal ones once a month and walk through the park and just ask some questions and gather the data so that we can argue better with the county. A second item, and we have something here in our budget, but maybe we could shift it, look to the county, in particular Park and Planning, to build a new gym in Bowie, a 3 to 5 court gym in Bowie, because city taxpayers send a lot of money to Park and Planning, and we get stuff in return that's true, but I think we ought to start arguing that they should pony up and do a gym. And then the last one would be probably impossible to do, but I'll suggest it anyways. On Northview Drive, there's the park and ride facility, and I think it's the Revenue Authority has that, which is a county. We should argue that that should be transferred to Bowie, and we could utilize it in our economic development strategy. So that would be the third one. Like I said, I'm very doubtful that that will happen, but we're always going to know if we never ask the question. And I think that runs through everything. Thank you, Mayor.
Completely agreed. If we don't ask, we don't get any possibility of a reply. Councilmember Ndibumadu.
Thank you so much, Mayor Esteve. I concur with a lot of council members Brady's thoughts. Really just amazing thinking outside of the box, and really just concur with it. To speak on the park and ride specifically, I did have a meeting with the Revenue Authority. As many of you may know, that land is owned by the county and operated by the Revenue Authority, as the Revenue Authority controls all parking for Prince George's County lands. I think the appropriate step is that we would ask the county, well, the next step is we would ask the county to designate that land as surplus property and explore a potential land swap or other kind of methodologies to get that land under the control of the city of Bowie, just so it does not go to any of the other potential people in the surrounding areas that have equally asked for it. So I think that is a great next step in terms of our economic development strategy. So just want to be clear on language. We would ask them to designate it as surplus property, where we would either then purchase it from the county, or they'd give it to us for free, and or we'd pursue a land swap. So I think that's a really great idea. And they are very open-minded to that. So just want to follow up from my conversations to expand on just the landscape of funding from the county. When the initial email was sent, I went back and expanded the scope of it based on the asks that were originally sent to the county council member's office. And let me just clarify for the record what scope I expanded. We talked about recreational infrastructure and a lot of just the fact that Bowie has a lot of sports in the city. Originally, I think we asked for about maybe somewhere, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like something like $400,000 for Allen Pond. I expanded that scope and asked for $1.5 million for capital investment across regional sports and recreation infrastructure across District 2 specifically. And I only know this because I have a lot of District 4 residents that love tennis. We have a lot of tennis courts that look dilapidated and abysmal in the city, quite frankly, and they're not being kept up. So to expand the scope and to get some of these facilities up to date and where they need to be so that they are attractive and so that our constituents can enjoy them without any difficulty, I did expand the scope. And let me reflect for the record what exactly that scope was expanded to. It was $1.5 million for capital investment in regional sports and recreational infrastructure. A targeted capital investment focused on modernizing and improving sports and recreational infrastructure across the city would help ensure these facilities continue to serve as high-quality regional amenities. Potential uses could include improvements to athletic courts and tennis facilities, field upgrades, trail connectivity, gymnasium improvements, aquatics and pickleball opportunities, and other capital enhancements that support youth sports, community recreation, and regional visitors. This investment would help modernize recreational assets that serve residents throughout Prince George's County while positioning Bowie's recreational infrastructure for future regional programming and capital investment. So that is one of the scope areas that I expanded. The second scope area that I expanded, I think we originally asked somewhere around $200,000 to $250,000 for master planning for Bowie Town Center or something like that. I did go back and expand the scope of that ask to reflect $850,000 across a couple of different master planning opportunities. And those master planning opportunities are specifically as reflected for Racetrack Road, Church Road, and Bowie Town Center, because, as we know, we have Church Road, which is a property that we own and have looked at or started to now talk about what could potentially be located there. And then we have our Racetrack Road property, which we asked for $9 million for remediation. But then the next phase of that is actually master planning to have a concrete plan of what that looks like going forward. So I expanded the scope to ask for those areas. Let the record reflect that I asked for $850,000 to state. Funding at this level would allow the city to undertake a comprehensive analysis of master planning, land use potential, infrastructure requirements, environmental considerations, and economic development opportunities for both properties, advancing project readiness for future public and private investment. So those were the two expanded scope areas that I went back and asked the county council members for consideration of budget funding. Thank you, Mayor Esteve. I'll turn it back to you to see if you have any questions of me.
I have a question. In regards to the $1.5 million in capital, was that a one-time ask, or is that an annual request?
That was a one-time ask just for now for some facility upgrades, but because essentially when I looked at the record on some of the tennis courts, like for example, specifically in District 2, it states that they're owned by a private club when you look into when you look in Atlas. However, it also states that the city of Bowie is a partial owner as well in Atlas. So I figured that we'd sort out those nuances at a later time. However, and we figure out how we want to structure that, but that is to include the ongoing ask of the Allen Pond investment, but to widen the scope on some of the other recreational opportunities that we have throughout the city.
Any further questions from staff?
So one point of the request that was made was for the city to provide its 3 priorities associated with that. We were given the number 3. I know we have more than that here. What would be helpful from the council is if you could relay which of these 3 things we have as the top priorities, but of course we'll convey every one of them if you like.
Do any of my colleagues, Councilmember Ndibumadu.
So I want to put Councilmember Brady's suggestion on the park and ride falls under a separate bucket to me because I don't think that's a budget ask. That's more of a land situation. So I don't think that kind of counteracts with your 3. I think your remediation, as I heard it, still stands on the $9 million on Racetrack. I also think the master planning, I just expanded the scope to include 2 other properties apart from just Bowie Town Center. And then on the current recreational ask, I just expanded the scope to ask for more money instead of just the one-time kind of ongoing ask. And let me just state why for District 4 residents that are watching. If you look at Prince George's County's budget, their $5.9 billion budget right now, they are focused, they have targeted areas of investment that they are making, but they're not necessarily prioritizing the funding of maintenance. They are prioritizing the funding of things that will unlock economic activity for the county and produce some sort of revenue in some sort of concept. And so that is why I expanded the scope of our ask to align with some of these larger funding area opportunities, and also funding master plans to them is pretty nominal. So that's why the expansion.
Any other questions or thoughts? Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to make sure the council gets a copy of whatever was revised so we can, I was writing it down. I'm not sure if I got everything. And we don't want to miss anything because this is an opportunity. So if you could please make sure we all get copies. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So Councilmember Ndibumadu, just to make sure we're on the same page, we have the Racetrack ask, which is now in the $9 million range, the expanded recreation ask, and just to be clear, what was the third one?
Master planning. So there was a master planning, but I just expanded it to add 2 additional properties beyond Bowie Town Center.
Okay.
And then on the Revenue Authority ask for the park and ride.
Yeah, so that one would be to designate it as surplus and then see if it's available for swap, purchase, or gifting.
And or, sorry, as you were talking, I remembered additional details. And or that would be a revenue share opportunity. So let's say, for example, the county said, hey, we don't want to give up that land, then possibly look at how they're bringing us in for joint ownership, and it would be a revenue share opportunity on whatever that becomes.
Understood. And I agree about keeping that in a separate bucket. Staff, for that particular one, the park and ride, is that better to have a closed session discussion in the near future with our economic development team, since that may involve some negotiation? Or is it easier for you just to get general consensus of the city to make that ask formally through Councilmember Adams?
Let us talk about it as staff a little bit, just in regards to the mechanics. I definitely have the sense here from the council that they want to pursue that, but let's identify if we need any clarity, and that is something that we could discuss in closed session, as it would be associated with property acquisition.
Perfect. So I think we have consensus on our top 3 items. Any other questions or thoughts? Councilmember Truesdale.
Thank you, Mayor and staff. I just want to concur with my colleagues in terms of the recreational axing, especially in the area of Allen Pond, as well as a new gymnasium. Park and planning, they get a lot of money from it. So in terms of us opening the scope to pickleball courts and things of that sort, and this may be out of reach, out of the pocket, but I would like to see a new high school in the city of Bowie. All right, thank you. We do have property for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Truesdale. So our top 3 are still racetrack, recreation expanded ask, the master planning ask, and then we will add further down the list a new high school. But those top 3 are still the top 3 that we discussed previously.
Renovation of the existing one.
Yeah. As Councilmember Brady said, if we don't ask, we don't get an answer. So we may as well ask.
A closed mouth does not get fed.
Closed mouth does not get fed.
That's right.
True words. Staff, do you have the top 3? Are we on the same page there?
Yes, it is very clear what our top items are here. We will get that together. Councilmember Adams asked. We are responding, and we'll see how he does for us. Thank you
so much. I appreciate it. This is a tough state, county, and federal budget environment, so I just want to make sure the public at home understands these are asks, not guarantees. But as my colleague said, we must ask. Councilmember Ndibumadu.
And then just always for District 4 residents, once we are finished with our next briefing on economic development and we have consensus, I think we should quickly then position our posture to then go ask the state as well. Thank you.
Understood. And actually, to exactly your point, Councilmember, we need to get our state delegation in here when they are back. They're out of session, but I know a lot of them are traveling right now, so we can have them in to have a little briefing on our last legislative session. All right. Anything else, my colleagues, on this particular item? Thank you, Councilmember Ndibumadu. Thank you, staff. With that, I will move us. Do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I would like to propose adjournment and move to closed session. A closed session that would commence immediately following our budget work session, to adjourn to closed session under statutory authority of the Maryland Annotated Code, General Provisions, Article 3-305B4, to consider a matter that concerns the proposal for a business or industrial organization to locate, expand, or remain in the state, as well as Section 1 to discuss appointment, employment assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction in any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals.
I will second that, but it's after we conclude the budget session.
Correct.
That is correct. That's the way it was introduced, yes.
Perfect. Moved and seconded. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. We will move to closed session and we will begin with budget presentation. This will be on the topic of city expenditures, general and enterprise funds. I will turn this over to city staff.
Thank you. If we could have a couple minutes to reshuffle some chairs, we'll be right with you.
Take your time. Thank you, colleagues, for a very productive meeting. That was good. Thank you.
There we go.
I think I'll avail myself of a cupcake.
Please do. I'm going to have him.
All right, Mayor, I think we are about ready.
All right, let's turn this back over to staff.
Very
Thank
good.
you, team.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This evening, we are going to be starting budget work session number 2. Last week, we had a work session where we provided an overview of the city's revenues. We tried to do it in a little bit of a different fashion in terms of presenting our revenues in a holistic manner, seeing how we have control over some revenue sources, but less control over other revenue sources. This evening, we are going to do something similar associated with our expenditures. We're going to be looking at them comprehensively rather than what we've done in the past of going through individual department by department. So we look again, more holistically in regards to our budget. The council has scheduled 2 budget listening sessions. They are set for this week on Tuesday night in Southlake and on Thursday night at Ken Hill Center. The idea behind the listening sessions is to give the public an opportunity to respond to the city's budget, which is available on the city's website, to reiterate the large overview of the city's budget. The budget was presented to the City Council very similar to the budget last year, preserving all of the city services that the city has. However, it is proposed with a tax increase in that, and that tax increase is at 20 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. So those listening sessions are going to give the public an opportunity to share their feelings and values associated with the services that the city offers and the value for those as well. The idea that we're going to have tonight in terms of this overview over the expenditures is to help give the public a broader picture in regards to where the city spends its money and how those resources are allocated, and anticipating the feedback from the community. Next week on Monday, the City Council and the public can be prepared for the city staff coming before the council with a list of many suggested changes with the city services. These may involve a number of cuts to services, and it may amount to several $1 million worth of items that are up for the City Council to discuss. So this evening, again, we have our interim Finance Director Bruce Miller with us, enjoying 3 weeks of service with the City of Bowie, and he is going to provide us the overview of the expenditures, both with our general fund and our enterprise funds this evening. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So good evening, Mayor and City Council. For the record, I'm Bruce Miller, the Interim Finance Director. Tonight I'll be presenting the city's operating expenditures budget for both the general fund and water sewer enterprise. I also have a first slide to provide an aggregate overview. So unless there are any comments, I'll move on to the presentation. So slide 2 is a summary of all expenditures by fund and by function. You'll see that the first column is the general fund, then we go into the equipment and replacement fund, the capital projects fund, and the water and sewer funds. You also see on the far left the different departments and functions. So for the general fund, the total budget is $98.5 million. The equipment and replacement fund totals $3.6 million. The capital projects fund is equal to $11.7 million. And the water and sewer fund equals $24.8 million. This aggregates up to $138.7 million in total. The next slide provides a percentage overview by these categories. So the first chart over on the left-hand side reflects the funds percentage to the city, which was just presented on the chart beforehand. The expenditures are summarized by department and by fund, which will be presented in more detail and granularity in the following slides. But to kick it off, the general fund's $98 million represents 18% of the city's total $138 million budget. I'm sorry, 71%. The equipment and replacement funds of $3.7 million represents 3%. The capital projects fund of $11.7 million represents 8% of the city's total budget. And finally, the water and sewer fund of $24.8 million represents 18% of the city's total budget. The chart to the right reflects the general fund's expenditures, and I underscored general fund. The chart to the left was all funds. The chart, or the pie chart to the right, is just the general fund. I've noted some in order of size and the respective budgets. The Public Works budget of $25.9 million is the largest city function by expenditure. It represents 26% of the city's general fund's $98.5 million. Behind that is the public safety budget at $22.7 million. This represents 23% of the city's general fund appropriation. The general government budget at $29.9 million is the city's third largest function and represents 22%. The Parks, Culture, and Recreation budget at $10.7 million is the city's fourth largest function by expenditure and represents 11% of the city's general fund appropriation. The remaining budgets, which include economic development, social services, non-departmental, debt service, and transfers, total $17.1 million and represents 17% of the total budget. Moving on to slide 4. The next slide presents the expenditures by spending category. The spending categories include personnel services, contractual services, commodities, other charges, capital outlay, debt service, and transfers. You'll see that the columns moving from left to right include the adopted budget for 26, the proposed budget for 27, a change column, and the percent of the total budget. Please note that the total budget is proposed to increase $6.7 million from $91.8 million to $98.5 million, which is a 7.3 increase over the fiscal year 26 budget. So looking to the schedule to the pie chart to the right, personnel services at $51.7 million is the largest spent category, representing 52% of the city's general fund expenditures. Contract services at $25.7 million is the city's second largest spend category, representing 26% of the city's general fund appropriation. Transfers at $6.7 million is the city's third largest spend category, representing 7% of the city's general fund. And finally, commodities at $4.8 million is the city's fourth largest spend category, representing 5% of appropriation. These four categories subtotal $89 million, or 90% of the city's total budget. Remaining charges, other capital and debt, total $9.5 million, representing 10% of the budget, for a total of $98.5 million. If we move back to the table on the left, it reflects the budgetary increases and decreases between fiscal years. And as we move through the budget process, this may help identify potential budget drivers. Personnel services increased by $3.1 million and reflects the largest general fund appropriation increase at 6.4% over the prior year. Capital outlay increased by $2.9 million and reflects the second largest increase. Contract services increased by $1.2 million and reflects is the third largest. The total increase for these three categories equals $7.3 million, or 10% over fiscal year '26. The remaining four categories, debt, commodities, and other charges and transfers, decreased $557,000, or 3%, therefore bringing down the net change. Moving on to slide 5. Slide 5 provides a summary of the departmental and division categories. The table to the right provides the totals by department. The four largest departments, Public Works, Police, Community Services, and the city manager's budgets represent 79% of the budget, where the remaining four departments, non-departmental, IT, finance, planning, represents the remaining 21%. And if you take a deeper dive, you'll see again that the city manager budget is 12%, police 20%. Just hitting the higher ones, Department of Community Services 19%, and Public Works at 26%. The pie chart to the right provides that same information in a pie chart presentation. What I'd like to do now is look at the changes. The city managers, going back to the chart on the left, the city manager's budget increased by the largest amount, $3.3 million. The police budget increased by the second largest amount, or $2.4 million, which reflects a 13% increase. The IT budget increased by the third largest amount, which is $752,000, or 14%. The community services budget increased $665,000 for the fourth largest amount, equaling 3.6%. Again, these changes total $7.1 million, or a 14% increase over the adopted '26 budget. And the remaining budgets of planning, finance, non-departmental, and public works decreased $398,000, thereby decreasing the overall increase to $6.7 million. The takeaway here, I think you'll see, is that there are big fish, if you will, and little fish. And to get to where we need to be, I really think that we need to focus on those bigger items, and hopefully looking at the change category between fiscal year '26 and '27 will point or provide us some opportunities.
So I'd like to pause here at this moment as part of the presentation. This is intended to give a big overview in regards to, as Mr. Miller indicated, the spend categories for the city, so you can see the relative importance of each of the departments in terms of how much they occupy associated with the city's budget. Certainly there are a lot of stories associated with some of those changes included in the budget. You know, that very large change in the city manager's budget is really taken up by one project in terms of the expansion of the city's fiber network that is using PEG funds. So it seems like an outlier in terms of but there are stories behind all of the things that are included in this. But I wanted to pause real quick and give you a little opportunity to react to really where the city's been putting its money. Yeah.
Councilmember Ndibu Madu.
Thank you so much, Mayor Stev. Can you explain just again the increase in business operations? I know that's partly because of the fiber expansion, but to my understanding, that will kind of equal itself out because it's more of a pass-through. So can you kind of explain that just so I make sure that I'm reading this correctly?
Certainly. So what we've talked about last week in regards to the city's fund balances, we have money that comes from different sources. So some of those we can use for all general government purposes, so those tend to be in our unassigned fund balance that we could use very freely. There is other revenue that we receive, like from the state of Maryland, that is associated with highway user revenue, our gas taxes that we can only pay for on street repairs. This particular one in the city manager's budget under business operations is our PEG funding. This is the dollars that are allocated on everybody's video services, their cable TV bill, that are allocated to the city of Bowie. This particular project, in terms of the expansion of our fiber network, the city currently participates in what's called the iNet. That is a fiber network that is run on a consortium of the county and other local governments, and it is maintained and provided by our cable providers as a resource that they have. That will be going away in the future. That will not be a network that we have available to us in the future, and so we have planned for, and we've been working towards expending dollars to extend our own fiber optic network, which connects all of our city facilities, that we will be able to utilize in place of the iNet in the future, but in the short run as a redundant system to ensure our intergovernmental communications amongst ourselves.
So in clarity, just for District 4 residents, who's paying for that?
Who ultimately is paying for it is the residents of Bowie through their fees that they pay associated with their cable television. These are dollars that have been accumulated over years for the purpose of spending that, but it is restricted in terms of what it may be used for, which is communications, computer communications, and ultimately cable television and things along those lines.
Okay, perfect. And the clarity that I was trying to draw here is when you look at the budget as just a constituent, it looks like a $3 million increase that is being possibly funded by potential higher taxes. And so that is the clarity that I wanted to make sure that we're driving for District 4.
Yes, and that is not the case. Those are funds that have been accumulated over many years with the intent and express purpose that we would be using this for this construction one day. We've been working towards this construction project for many, many years.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any questions or thoughts from any of my other colleagues? Councilmember Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to make a statement. It's a general statement. And first, I want to thank everybody for all the work that went into the budget. And I thank Mr. Miller for his summary presentations from both last week and this week. I sincerely appreciate it. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge what I believe to be my responsibility as a good steward of taxpayer dollars, if I did not make at least a couple comments about the general expenditure budget. So I need to be direct. This budget reflects business as usual, and I know we're going to do listening sessions over the next couple days, and hopefully that will provide additional insight, but I also know that the budget is due to be voted on May 4th. What concerns me is not just the deficit with the budget gap, but we're still proposing without clearly identifying what we are willing to delay, reduce, or eliminate. And in this environment, increases, no matter how small the percentage, should be the exception, not the default. So every decision we make right now should be grounded in one simple question. Is this essential, and what is the trade-off? And because if we're not willing to make the trade-offs, then we are not seriously addressing the deficit. So I do want to be clear, this is not something we can, fix with small changes. I understand that. This requires a reset in how we approach the budget. And we should be starting from what we can afford and prioritizing core services and building from there. So what I'm asking is that, as we move forward, we consider a different approach, one that reflects the reality from, that's in front of us, and one that prioritizes sustainability, and one that demonstrates a real change in behavior. Because without change, we're not solving the problem, we're extending it. Now, I recognize that what we presented tonight was just a summary. It was a budget that was prepared. It was prepared by others. So I understand that. And I also understand within the next 2 weeks, we're going to, I hope the council will be receiving data that helps us understand certain scenarios around tax increases, so that we understand the overall impact on what the services may be. So I understand that that's going to happen as well. But I also understand the fierce urgency of now. And with a May 4th date for a budget approval, I would not be able to sit up here and honestly not say anything about fiscal stewardship. So I just want to go on the record to say that we still have to make sure that we focus on solving a problem, and that problem will come with change. And I know change is often difficult, particularly when you have a community that's accustomed to Cadillac services. We may have to resolve ourselves to Volkswagen services, although Volkswagens are very nice cars. So I just wanted to make that statement. I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you, council member. Any of my other colleagues, before I go back around? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple quick questions. Thank you again for stepping in and filling the finance shoes, if you will, on this interim period. Couple of quick questions. Our vacancy rate, what is our current vacancy rate? Do we know?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Mayor. Thanks.
I think we'll all need to look that up and get that number back for you.
Mm-hmm. And in the construct of the budget, do we take an FTE in the budget sense and fully load it for the full year, regardless of how long the vacancies might tend to manifest themselves?
You are right on. The city has historically funded the full position value for compensation fringe associated for the full fiscal year, and that typically has resulted in some of the gap between the expected expenditures and what the actual expenditures are each fiscal year. One of the things that we will be bringing to you next week as a proposal, we have to still work on refining the number, but is restructuring that. So we will be taking a look at what our typical vacancies are, and we will be providing to you a tighter number than the city has ever had previously associated with personnel. Mr. Miller and I have been talking about a concept associated with that, and we will bring that to you next week.
Excellent, thank you. And just based on, I know you don't have the data point at your fingertips, attrition rate, typical attrition rate for us?
We actually, that's the concept Mr. Mayor just mentioned. Mm-hmm. We went through and did a 3-year look back. And the numbers range between $3 and $1 million during that 3-year look back. So we're going to bring a number forward that we don't want it to be overly aggressive.
Sure.
Because then you create a potential deficit within the budget. So, but that's something that we need to drill down on and be confident when we propose it in the budget.
Excellent, thank you. I'm glad you're on to that because having been involved with large agencies before, large being more than 10 folks, something that you could spread out over a lot of offices and so forth. Right. There's a little hay in that field. So, given how heavily skewed we are towards expenses associated with employees, that should yield something. So I'm pleased to hear that. The next item or comment is, can we see these numbers with a modification, following back up what Councilwoman Ndebumadu was pointing out? We have some items that are funded from external sources, whether shared highway user funds and these other things. Can we asterisk and then back out those costs? So we, for example, if we're looking at the city manager's office, can we put another column that might be shared funds or other sources? So
you're looking for net expenditure.
Yes, net of what other people are paying me.
We can figure something out.
Yeah, and there may be also some opportunity for that in other areas as well that are fee-based, where we may have some net benefit there to see if that. I'd hate to go chasing after something only to find out that all I did was reduce my opportunity to bring in free money, or I just cut out a bunch of revenue like fees, fee services, that sort of thing.
Well, if I may, what I normally do with a request like this is you have the expense, and then you show your different revenue sources to the right of that, and then you get to a net number.
That'd be awesome. That'll be very helpful because as we're going through, and we noted this last week where we were looking at some of the capital expenditures, where we were thinking like, oh, this will be great. This says, no, that's free money that you don't want to not spend. So.
This is an opportunity in regards to our budget presentation where we could really do a better job for the council associated with this. In our capital funds, at the bottom of each sheet, it's broken out a little bit better in terms of the source of funds, but you're exactly right. We don't get into this detail in the budget that is presented to you all. This is sort of one of the things that's a bit more, we'll call it behind the curtain. It is calculated, it is anticipated, but we're not front-facing with that information for the source of those funds.
Inside baseball, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
On the first pass, any other thoughts or questions on the first pass? Councilmember Brady.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I start off, I have a clarifying or a question of, last week we agreed that if we had questions, we could send it to you, Mr. Mears.
Yes.
You would circulate it, get the answer, and send it back to us. And I sent you a question with regards to the tax rate, and I've not seen anything. So is there a status you can provide on that?
You sent us, I believe, 3 different questions. Right. I was working on compiling all of those. I don't have all of the response back from the departments just at this point, but it is in process to get back to you.
Okay. And for my colleagues, just to explain the question I'm really interested in, and this is the analytical mind of an engineer. The question I asked was, given the budget as submitted, the proposed budget, I asked staff to look at what would happen if we adopted 20-cent increase in the tax rate. It's the budget. So what I asked them to do was what are the impacts on services, programs, and projects if we only adopted 15-cent as proposed in the budget, not the tweaking that we're going to do over the hearings, but a 10-cent, a 5-cent, and a 0-cent. And that to me is a starting point for us looking at what we get the feedback from our citizens and saying, this is where we can accept some belt tightening, and this is an area that we don't want. So it's just a parallel path, if you will. And to me, I think it will be valuable, and I'm looking forward to getting the information. Thank you for that clarification. And also a clarification, last week when we were talking about fees, and we talked about looking at raising the fees, at the time we were talking recreational amenities and those kind of fees. I expect that to be for all fees that we do, not just the recreational. So for planning and other things where the fees structure's there, let's look at tweaking them up according to what the inflation index is.
Yes, we are working on that.
Okay, just thank you. Let me see. It's challenging. I totally agree with my fellow at-large colleague, Councilwoman Rogers. This is challenging times, and we have to do the job right. If we don't do it right, it's not just the fact that our citizens will be underserved or will become angry because the quality of the services they receive becomes substantial. My concern is that in 2 years, in 4 years, in 8 years, there'll be a ripple effect from our actions in this process that negatively impacts our community, and we start to see a decline. And I fear that, and I think we really need to roll up our sleeves and bust our butts up here and do it right this time so we don't have it. One of the candidates that we interviewed for the city manager's job talked about the silos here at City Hall. And the impression there was the fact that each department seems to be independent of all the other departments, even though there were commonalities and what have you. I don't know if that's a valid point, but I would hope that through the actions of not only the work that you do for the citizens day in and day out, and also the work that you do in pulling the budgets together, that we aren't doing that. Because when we have silos, you have inefficiencies, you have waste, and that contributes to the budget problem that we have. One problem I have with looking at the summaries, and it goes to and the kind of outgrowth of the silos comment. If you look at the bottom line on this current graph, it says the increase is 7.4%. Now, I understand there are some numbers in there like the pass-through that we were talking about just a second, but still when I looked page by page, there were places where certain items were increasing significantly above inflation. And it raised a question in my mind, and actually that 7.4 is 3 times the inflation for the last year. And my concern is that there was the possibility that, oh, this is the way we've always done it, so we've increased it by this amount, increased our budget, so there's numbers there that aren't true. And I don't expect staff did that, but that's the concern, and that's a perception. When you're running numbers that are significantly higher than the inflation rate, it raises some concern. So I hope we aren't doing that. And also, the Mayor Pro Tem talked about the vacancies and the impact on the budgets. And I'm not suggesting this, and it's not meant to be negative on our staff, but when promotions occur, are they, and they're usually scheduled. Now then, do they occur when they're appropriate relative to the individual position, or are they staged throughout the year in order to manage the process? Just a question, just out of curiosity.
So I would say that the timing associated with promotions varies depending on how that is set. There are some positions where promotions occur per schedule. They are people that have advanced in their careers, met certain marks in terms of expectations, and they occur when they meet those milestones. Right. There are other promotions that occur just on the basis of vacancy. A person had left one position, and it provides an opportunity for somebody to grow and move up associated. So it varies depending on the circumstances.
Okay. So, I mean, to be fair to the employees and what have you, you might say it's a budget neutral because it's not driven by any need, but rather by rewarding their performance.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And then the last question I'll have before we get into more discussion. At the end of the year, typically organizations don't draw down and end up with a zero balance on their accounts. Typically, what has been the historical trend that we've had here? Because basically that would be money that would be added to the pot next year. So just kind of ballpark, what is that number?
So I think what you're asking is, at the end of the year, if there are unspent funds, what happens to those funds?
Right.
So in the city of Bowie, we start back at zero. All unspent funds go back into the fund balance and then need to be appropriated and allocated in the next fiscal year. So there's no accumulating balance of funds for any function department. It comes back to zero each year as far as the departments and activities are concerned.
Agreed. My question was typically what kind of numbers are we talking about? Are we talking about $300,000? Are we talking about $5 million?
It's as Mr. Miller just indicated, just on the personnel side, in terms of the vacancies, that has been between 1 and 3 million. Some of the we have had multi-million dollars that has gone unexpended in years. Those have typically been associated with capital projects that were anticipated to be completed in one fiscal year, but then rolled over into another, as to why we've had multi-million dollar amounts in the past. I cannot say we've had a consistent number. Like, I couldn't tell you every year it's $4 million. It varies much more than that.
Okay, it would be helpful if we knew what the trends, or say the past 5 years, were like. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Council Member. Do any of my colleagues have any first pass thoughts before I come back around? All right, second pass. Council Member Ndibumadu.
Thank you so much, Mayor Stev. Thank you again for this presentation and the comprehensive answers that you have presented before us this evening. Now, I just want to ground my comments before we get started and share that my statements tonight and my questions tonight are reflective of District 4 residents and the myriad of emails that we've received in regards to constituents and their concerns and questions that are top of mind for them. So, Mr. Miller, sorry to place you in the hot seat, but you will be tonight. So I just want to start off by sharing that, you know, as I've been going through the budget, most of my observations have been holistic across revenue, capital, and expenditures. And what stands out to me is less about any single line item right now in this moment and more about how the system is operating as a whole. And so most of my questions following these comments are going to be about understanding how we're introducing discipline and sequencing into the system, particularly in a year where staff is proposing making a significant adjustment on the revenue side. So I want to start out with my first question. My first question is, given the level of financial pressure driving a significant proposed increase in property taxes, how are you currently prioritizing cost containment, particularly in areas like administrative growth and personnel? And let me just caveat that by saying I understand the budget that you presented this evening, like I shared last week, is a budget that was prepared by someone else. But given a lot of the questions that you've heard from us recently, there's clearly a desire to understand what the trade-offs are. So let me repeat my question again to make sure that we're just not grounding it in this book and it's reflected reflective of, active adjustments in real time. Given the level of financial pressure driving a proposed significant increase in property taxes, how are you currently prioritizing cost containment, particularly in areas like administrative growth and personnel?
So the budget that is presented to you this year does not have any staff increases in it. I think the prior year budgets have had growth in staff associated with those, but this fiscal year budget does not have additional staff included in it. In regards to the prioritization associated with this. Our staff has been getting together over the past several weeks since the budget had been prepared, and we've been taking a look at opportunities for cost containment. We are bringing those together. We hope to hear from the community and some more from the council in regards to some of the priorities in terms of service, so we can present those to the council to find some savings over what expenditures have been in the past. I think your comment is very fair and appropriate in regards to have we been judicious in terms of the expansion of staff in the city of Bowie? In some cases, yes, and in some cases, no. To a large degree, many of the changes in staffing that have occurred have come from I guess the general policy direction that has come from the City Council. Hearing requests or desires over the years has prompted staff to say the council wants us to allocate more time and effort and resources towards that, and the staff has responded by making proposals in regards to those individual positions. They've come before you in the years past, and they've gotten contained in the budget. I would say there is not a position from the staff standpoint that they are seeking to do empire building or grow, in a vacuum without some other input having prompted it in the past. This has usually been associated with either expansion of services associated with our population growth, change of priorities in terms of what the city has sought from a service level, and it has varied in terms of really the efficacy in terms of whether or not it is truly related to what's needed, or it is related to more perceptions of a desired service outcome.
Thank you so much for that answer. So let me go to my second question. There are, across multiple different divisions, there are proposed, let me be intentional about my words, growth, rather, in terms of numbers. How do those proposed areas of increase align directly to near-term outcomes or cost offsets? And if you need specific departments, I'm happy to walk through what I'm seeing on the screen here in terms of the increase.
Yeah, if you'd like to give a specific one, we can try and address that. I did want to mention the next portion of going through the presentation. Mr. Miller has a further breakdown in terms of all of the departments, looking at each of these functional areas in regards to personnel costs, commodities, et cetera. So we do intend for the remainder of the presentation to get sort of that next level down in terms of scope, and perhaps that may be a little bit more appropriate after we go through that section.
No problem. As long as it addresses near-term outcomes and cost offsets, that's great.
Okay.
Okay, my second question, my next question, really third question, for Mr. Miller. Based off of your financial expertise, how should we be thinking about the trajectory of our debt service in relation to our overall capital strategy and its impact on the operating budget over time?
Great question. I would say that you want to take a look at debt service in two different buckets. The first bucket is your infrastructure / which would be your enterprise funds, wastewater, solid waste. because they are so capitalized assets, right? You had to put in a lot of infrastructure. You have to put pipes in, whatever, to make that all work. And that's a long-term investment. That's a 30-year investment usually. So you look at that bucket differently than you would look at your general fund activities. So going back to your infrastructure, rating agencies typically look at that a little bit differently and allow a higher debt service number. You also, there are all different kind of theories about intergenerational equity. A person today, if you do PAYGO, right, that ratepayer today is paying for an asset that's going to last for 30 years. Why is that person paying all the upfront costs for it? The argument then is amortize that over the life, and everybody who's using it has the opportunity to pay for it. So there's a lot of back and forth. Bottom line, let's face it, the more PAYGO you use, the cheaper it is on the long term. So you have to weigh that two-edged sword. The other, going back to the general fund, again, you have a very low, you have been very, very disciplined, which is a good thing. But I think that discipline right now is kind of like kicking a little bit, if you will, because you have used so much PAYGO that you don't have the fund balances that you really ought to have. So now you want to balance that long-term horizon. And there's certain ways that you can bring back money. I mean, you can do a restructuring. You can do a taxable bond so that you can bring back a little bit of fund balance. There are different ways that you can structure things to make yourself whole again. But ultimately, you need to look at fund balance and not aggregate fund balance, but unrestricted fund balance. Unrestricted fund balance is your rainy day fund. Okay, and it's your rainy day fund that allows you to have flexibility. One of the biggest things that whenever you go to New York, the rating agencies are always talking about how much flexibility do you have in your budget? Can you survive a catastrophic event? Okay, unfortunately, we looked at COVID. That was pretty hard to get through, right? So you want those balances, if you will, that rainy day fund to get you through that hard time. It's not to say that you can't use it, okay? But you use it at the right opportunity. Unfortunately, Bowie has used one-time revenues for ongoing expenditures, and you have built a very tenuous situation which you are now facing because you have built you have embedded a structural deficit within your budget, okay? And that's what you're wrestling with now, okay? And I think just general conversation-wise, you're talking about cuts, you're talking about a combination of revenue enhancements, but again, I would look at the long term and make sure that you're growing your unrestricted fund balance to a level of 15% of your expenditures plus. And then you have other cascading fund balance categories to help you along with that, okay? You have the structure. I'm very impressed with the structure of the city, but you have to tweak a few policies here and there to get realigned, if you will. But you have the tools, you have the foundation. Now it's just structuring it in such a way that, and you're looking at a 3 to 5 year window. It's not going to happen overnight, okay? And it's going to have to be a discipline. One of the things I would say is, you have to understand from a policy initiative, and tell me if I'm talking too much, but you want to align your programs, okay? And emphasize the word programs versus departments and whatnot. Programs are meet policy initiatives, are the programs that we are offering. Somebody mentioned core services. Are the core services that you are providing through your different programs matching up with your initiatives? And those initiatives should be expressed every year as part of your budget, okay? And have that alignment as you go year to year to year. And, you know, selfishly looking at things, you know, the financial policies drive everything that you do. I know, you know, I'm looking at it from a, you know, from a financial perspective, but if you don't have the finances, you know, that cornerstone, you can't provide the services that the community is looking for. And with that, I'll get off my soapbox and turn it over to Mr. Mears.
Thank you so much for that answer. It's very, very helpful. I'm going to echo the comments of my at-large council members and just say we've got to, over these next couple of weeks, get an understanding of the rigor and the discipline that's being introduced around cost containment and the optionality of cuts and what that looks like. And I think what I would offer is to shift the posture and start to align with the funding flows. External funding strategy is a revenue strategy. Some cities do it better. Unfortunately, we don't do it the best. And so I think over the years I've heard, oh, there's not money for this and there's not money for that. And I believe that's accurately false because I look at all the reports every single day and every single week of the communities and the city governments that are getting funding for one thing or another because they understand how to position properly. And so, for example, I'll give you a quick example. When it comes to recreational services or just services in general, we are service heavy like many governments. So we have a priority to contain costs and not offset all the costs on our residents by increasing user fees for actual constituents and residents of Bowie. However, if we are going to do things like that, we need to balance that with community project funding and meeting with our congressional offices to offset the rest of the delta instead of waiting till the end of the year and then looking at how do we raise taxes. Because at the end of the day, there's money out there. Our constituents are already paying, whether that's they're paying in income taxes or they're paying in other avenues. So the pots of monies are already there. We just need to be savvy about how we go collect it. And so it would be really helpful if the city staff can do an exercise where you look at the flows of funding and what those programs are aligned with so we can align our programs accordingly. So as legislators, when we are going out here to ask for money from our congressional districts and from our state delegates and from our county, it's in alignment with what the funding trends are of today. But asking people to fund aging infrastructure, every community has aging infrastructure, so that's not a competitive advantage for us. And so I think there is an exercise that you guys can go through together to figure out how do you align the positioning and how do you align the services that we're providing today. And sometimes it's very simple nuances, add the word innovation in there, I don't know, that aligns with the trends of what's being funded today so we can shift our posture and start to basically target other funding mechanisms. So we're diving deep in our kind of more so capital strategy. You gave a comprehensive overview of our debt servicing over time, so that's super helpful. Now I'm digging into our external funding strategy because we really need to get a little bit more aggressive there because as a municipality who's proposing a $139 million budget, saying that we got $2 million from Congress is abysmal to me. So we should be getting no short than $10 million year over year plus more for the areas that we want to continue to scale. And so that is an exercise that I'm going to ask you guys to go through so that we can be more competitively positioned as legislators to ask for the funding that we need necessary. And then the last part is just helping us be a little bit more intentional about the cost containment. I think you'll go through that more intentionally in the next part of this presentation because that will drive my next round of questioning. So thank you for your answers at this time.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or thoughts from my colleagues? All right. To my council members' last points, essentially looking for additional grants to support the city, I would say that if, in addition to staff kind of taking a close look at what's available at the federal and state level, making sure to participate in conversations with our city lobbyists who deal with these things, and also to any of my colleagues who might be aware of any opportunities, please feel welcome to continue to share those with staff. Very often in my experience, we will bring opportunities forward, and very often what happens is that the city of Bowie doesn't meet income thresholds to qualify for a lot of the funds that other communities are getting. In fact, we were just having a discussion about that tonight related to some other funds in the QUORUM Commission. And that tends to be a major obstacle, but any new opportunities that come up, definitely continue to share with staff, and we definitely encourage staff to continue to work closely with our lobbyists and with our grants office to explore the opportunities that exist. Councilmember Ndibumadu.
Mayor Stev, I just want to clarify, I agree with your point, but what I'm emphasizing is a posture and an alignment. I don't even think we're there yet to be able to even ask for certain areas of funding because we're not in alignment with the trends of what is being funded. For example, if you're going to ask for funding on aging infrastructure or water pipe, it needs to be positioned as you're doing a modernization effort with IoT. That's what the federal government is funding today. But if we're not positioning ourselves as such, we can't just go in and say, hey, we need money for aging infrastructure, because they're going to say, so does every other city in America. And so I think it's a posture and an alignment thing on how we position our municipality and the services that we have to offer that is in line with what the state and the federal government as well as the county cares about and is funding areas of investment today. That's basically my comment. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you, council member. All right, staff, back to you.
Very good. Why don't we move on? We'll go into slide number 6, and we're going to take a look at this level in terms of the categories going through the different departments, just to give another view into our financial world.
Thank you. So I'm going to remain with 5 very, very quickly. These are the different departments that we're going to be going through and making comments on. So starting with the city manager's budget. The city's manager's budget, as reflected on slide 6, consists of the city council, city manager, I won't read each, all the way down through emergency management. Again, you'll see the 26 budget, the 27 budget, the change within that, the percent increase for each of those spending areas, and the percent of the budget. Again, this budget percentage is based on the department's total, not the overall aggregate budget. So when you see 1 at the bottom of the column there, that means that it's balanced within that department. So the business operations, economic development, and the city manager's budget are the 3 largest divisions within the city manager's department. These divisions comprise 60% of the department's budget. And please note that the percentages, I already made that point. So you can see that the business operation is equal to 32%, economic development at 18%, and around the excuse me, around the slide there. The budget increased from $8.6 million up to $11 million, which was a $3.2 million increase, which represents a 30% increase over last year. But as was discussed earlier, $3 million of that is in business operations, which is equal to the CIP fiber network redundancy plan that Mr. Mayor has talked in detail. The next slide is a chart based on departments that have no independent divisions within them. The police department increased 13%, or $2.4 million. The information technology increased $752,000, which is a 14% increase over last year. And the finance department increased $146,000 or 8.14%. I'm going to pause here for a moment and throw my 2 cents in. One of the, and I think I mentioned this earlier, one of the important things is having programs, if you will, cost centers, however you want to describe them, because number one, it adds to budgetary discipline, management oversight, and you really start understanding what the budget is and why the budget is moving. If you see it here, you really don't understand what the different pieces here are, and therefore it's hard to differentiate the different programs that are embedded in this. So as you move forward in future years' budget, again, I would recommend that you take a look at cost centers as much as possible.
I was glad Mr. Miller had brought up this suggestion in regards to doing this. Each of these departments, while they are not reflected as having cost centers contained within their budget, they do operate with some cost centers associated with them. So I think we'll really be advantaged in our budget next year by taking a look at a more granular view in terms of how the expenditures are allocated through these departments. This will help ultimately with the budget preparation for the city manager and the finance department for looking where this is, where the costs are, but also next year with the council to see, just where our expenses allocated. For example, in our police department, we have a call center, a 911 operation located in this, and that is a separate functional area than the police department as a whole, and it would be good for you all to have the breakdown of those.
Staying with this slide a little bit and understanding what the cost drivers are within the police, $2.4 million. The salary increase is $1.3 million. Contract services are approximately 1.3, and contract services about $1 million. For the IT department, is primarily in the contracts, and then finance is primarily in personnel costs. The next slide is, I'm going to do 2 slides here. One is just the financial data, and then the next one will be the pie chart. It was so big I couldn't get them on a side by side. So I hope you will tolerate that. Slide 8 reflects the Department of Community Services budget, which increased $665,000, or 3.61% over the prior year. The big drivers are the community outreach of $146,000 increase, and parks and grounds of $305,000. Everything else nets up to that $665,000. And it should be noted that community services up top with the administration has a decrease of $60,000. Next slide is the pie chart. Parks is at 27%, Parks and Grounds is at 27%, and the, let's see here, let's see, where am I here? I'm sorry. Yeah, Parks is at 27%, and General Services is at 12%, for a total of 39%. The remaining divisions are all under 10%, which aggregate up to 100%. So again, if you are talking about what the budget drivers are, again, I would focus on those larger departments or divisions and functions. Slide 9 is a side-by-side for Department of Planning and Sustainability. Planning has a total budget of $1.5 million. This was an increase of $566,000 over the prior year, or 58%, almost 59%. Planning represents 60% of the budget. 68% of the budget, and the sustainability represents 32% of the budget. The cost drivers on both of these accounts or both of these divisions are in contract services. And I should say that the budget book for each one of these divisions or departments provides that granularity that you may be looking for. So if you match up, you can easily trace this presentation back to the budget book. That will provide you much more detail. Slide 11 reflects the Department of Public Works. Again, the adopted budget for 26 was $26.2 million. It increased, it actually decreased to $25.9 million, or a decrease of $243,000. Street maintenance and solid waste represent over 80% of the budget. The remaining components are administration, the maintenance in the garage, stormwater management, and the special taxing authorities. Turn the page here to slide 12. Slide 12 is non-departmental / non-allocated expenditures. This includes transfers, debt service, and transfers to other funds. The fiscal year 27 budget increased or decreased $866,000 from $12 million down to $11.5 million, which reflects a 6.95% decrease. And then down on the bottom, just to wrap up everything, you can see again that the total budget increased $6.7 million or 7.34% from $91.8 million up to $98.5. Going back to the pie chart here, transfers to other funds represents approximately 60% of the budget, and debt service 31%. Again, reiterating what I said previously, the debt service is 4% of your total budget, which is a very healthy benchmark. Most communities are up, even AAA communities are around 10 to 12%. So of the operating budget. So 4% is very, very healthy. The next slide are the representation of the water and sewer enterprise funds. The fiscal year 26 adopted budget was at $19 million, 19.4. It increased by $5.4 million to $24.8 million, which is a 27%, almost 28% increase. And it's no surprise that 89% of the budget is driven by the wastewater division and the water division. Other expenditures being debt service, the transfers, and general fund direct chargebacks. So that essentially wraps up the presentation. Having comments, I hope it wasn't too painful. Presenting financial data sometimes is like watching paint dry. I apologize for that, but the numbers are the numbers. And I hope, in all sincerity, that the presentation provided you an understanding of what the challenges are for the community and where we may need to go, what we may have to do, and not just on the short term, but on the long term, and developing strategies, coping strategies for that. I think, in other communities that I've had similar experiences with, it's an opportunity, and I would look at it as an opportunity because you can rewrite yourself, rewrite the ship, so to speak, and come out much stronger in the future. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Mears.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. So again, to sort of summarize, we really wanted to present the budget in a fashion that the City Council and the public really have not seen from us in years prior. The City of Bowie, like a lot of local governments, is very complex in terms of how it allocates its resources. Our functions are very disparate. How do you value things like public safety against programs for our seniors and our youth? How do we take a look at the cleanliness of the community versus the day-to-day administrative tasks that it just takes to operate structures and humans? And it's challenging to make value judgments across all of these things. And that's why we wanted to present this information in this fashion so you could see the complex nature of the services that we are offering, not only for the council, but for the public watching at home in terms of the true scope of what we do as an organization. I'm hopeful that this is a bit helpful for our public as they take a look in our budget and think about what they want to come and communicate with us over the next couple of listening sessions that we have later this week. I did mention to the City Council, our communication staff developed a survey that is an option to get out for a for getting a quick look and feedback from the community. While I pause and listen for your comments on this next portion of the presentation, I'll come by and give a paper copy of the presentation or the survey. I know you got it all in email previously, but I'll bring a paper copy along as well.
Colleagues, while the acting city manager distributes the survey, does anyone have any additional thoughts or questions for staff? I will start with Councilmember Ndebumadu. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mayor Esteve. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley. First question. This was super helpful. I want to talk about the $665,100 increase in Department of Community Services. Can you help me understand where that increase is coming from and what's driving that increase? I was trying to find it in the section, but it's not clear to me in the section. Or is that in community outreach, whichever one?
I can speak on that. Majority of the significant increases within community services have to do with general services and parks and grounds, those two entities. Those are the two entities within community services that manage facilities, maintain facilities. It's HVAC systems, it's plumbing repairs, it's electric repairs, that type of stuff. Within the outreach that you just brought up, that has to do predominantly with grants and scholarships.
Can you, sorry, what, did someone say something? Okay. You said grants and scholarships. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, education, arts, outreach, and diversity committees all have scholarships and grant type programs. So that is all part of their committee budgets.
What percentage of the increase is tied to that?
I'd have to provide that at a later time.
Okay, can you follow up with that? That would
Yes,
be
ma'am.
helpful. My next question, thank you so much, Director Spurgeon. My next question was going to be in planning and sustainability. It was for contractual services. I saw there was an increase. It's tied to contractual services. But then when I went deeper in the budget book, Mr. Hall, I know you don't really have to answer this because I've answered my own question, but if you'd like to expand on it. When I went deeper in the budget books, it looks like we need to expand contractual services for an environmental plan that we are looking at implementing or are required to implement. So can you expand on that contractual services increase?
Sure, Councilwoman, I appreciate the question. There's two big for my department, big. It's all big numbers, little numbers. So, we have a small budget in the first place. What might be a minor increase in some department looks really big. So, and when you look at percent change, that's what you're seeing up there. But happy to talk about those. There's two significant contractual services that we were asking for in this budget. One is the one you pointed out. So that was for a watershed plan. That's something that the department and others we work with have been wanting to do for quite some time. It was highlighted significantly in the environmental action plan that was just adopted by you all in December. The watershed action plan would address a number, the watershed plan, not action plan, that was the environmental action plan. The watershed plan would address a number of things, whether it's how we link sustainability to our storm management requirements, stream health, at the neighborhood scale, all the way up to how it flows into the Patuxent River, linking stream health and restoration to broader environmental sustainability goals, and involving the public in all of that, and coming up with a strategy that connects a lot of dots. The other piece, actually a bigger piece, they were asking for contractually was $400,000 for, the watershed plan was $150,000 we're asking for. We're asking for $400,000 for the Bowie Town Center work, and certainly Council's very familiar with that effort, and we're trying to build momentum from a report from the Economic Development Committee here before you in October. And then we had the Urban Land Institute Technical Advisory Panel, and that work they did and delivered in November. We've got those reports in around the January timeframe. So we're working to move forward from those. So we recognize that as a significant ask, but I think that the challenge is significant. It's not something the city really has much experience with as far as significant redevelopment at that scale. And so those are the two big ones. I can talk about others, but those are the two big chunks that are driving up that big percent change in our ask for the budget this year.
Thank you so much for that explanation. Just as an example, the first contractual services that you were referring to, these are the examples of things that from my colleagues, I believe should be passed on to the county as costs. The county funds planning and contractual services like this, like it is nothing, like with their eyes closed, consistently from municipalities. So these are the type of costs that need to be offsetted and recouped from the county, since they do it for every other district beyond Bowie. In terms of the planning percent change, I want to talk about that briefly because I think a lot of constituents in District 4 don't know this. The Bowie Town Center is owned by a bunch of multiple owners. There are multiple different individual parcels that are owned by a bunch of disparate owners all over the place. So I think sometimes when people look at Bowie Town Center, they think it is by one specific owner. It is not. The middle part of Bowie Town Center is owned by one person. Safeway owns their building. Macy's owns their building. Bank of America owns their building. The back Goodwill, that whole strip is owned by somebody else. The front where the cheesesteak sub place is owned by somebody else. Then BJ's is owned by the same owner as Best Buy, and Best Buy owns their building. And then over there, United Furniture Way, they own their building. So there are a bunch of different owners over there, and for us to really meaningfully understand how we can economically activate and unlock the Bowie Town Center, we must do this plan. This plan is imperative for our economic development efforts. I do believe that this is cost we're going to be able to recuperate from the county, so I'm not too worried about it. So hopefully at the end of the day, we will have cost savings because the county just funds things like this, and Bowie Town Center is such an important asset for the county in general because of this corridor. So I'm not too worried about that ask. But that is all my questions of you in planning and sustainability. Thank you so much. I want to pivot back to community services because I have it pulled up in front of me, and I'm so sorry, Nick, I did not have it pulled up before. I see the two big changes, and I want to get a better understanding and drill down into specifics, because I see for community outreach, the percent change is 146,000. So I'm trying to understand what is driving that change and that increase in number.
So there's a couple different changes within that budget line item. Community outreach includes the special events, includes committees. Each of the committees submits budgets to the city council. Community services reflects those budgets accordingly within this budget, within this division budget. Each of those committees, or majority of those committees, had substantive asks, and those are part of this budget. And I can get you greater detail, greater specificity outside of this meeting. In addition, we also have the amphitheater project, which we are hoping to complete this summer. As part of the budget process, there was a special event, a grand opening for the event. There were some dollars assigned to that event that's captured within this budget as well.
Okay, that's helpful. If you can follow up with this council in terms of those actual line items, because it would be interesting to see what's driving the increase. Let me make an example here, because I really want to be clear and just honor my commitment to my constituents, that we really need to shift our posture. For example, we were talking about arts programming. I know we have an arts committee. I sat down with the developer probably about 2 weeks ago, and I asked them for space for us to do an arts programming and for them to fund that cost. These are the types of deals and agreements that need to be made with the people that are doing business in the city of Bowie. They donate to charity. These are tax write-offs for them, but it means so much to us because it has cost savings attached to it for the city. So that is what I mean when I say we need to shift our posture. We need to look at our surrounding areas and utilize what is around us and make sure that we elevate our standards so that we are getting something different. But that is helpful if you can follow up with that. Then the second thing I would like to understand is in parks and grounds, there's a $305,000 increase. What is driving that change?
There is a significant cost center associated with maintaining our parklands. So many of those contracts that we bid out are done cyclically, and when they come up for renewals, oftentimes we experience upwards of 10% increases. So we have to budget for the unknown with those circumstances. I will say that we traditionally over-deliver and underspend with Parks and Grounds. They are extremely frugal in how they operate, how they maintain equipment, but yet still provide outstanding parks. The quality of what they do in the parks, the maintenance standard is very high. But again, we are looking at every line item through the budgetary process, to grass seed, to fertilizer, to oil filters for tractors, the works.
Awesome, that is very helpful. I'm going to ask you more of a philosophical question next to get an idea of how you're thinking in terms of just administrative staff. Across a number of different departments, we are very administrative staff heavy. Many departments have executive office managers and then administrative admins, and it is not me driving this change, but the rise and the evolution of technology is driving these change where some of these types of roles will become obsolete. So how are you preparing your staff? Because I do see that in one specific department, there's 2 administrative assistants, and then there's an executive office manager. So how are you preparing the transition of those roles, or are you preparing the transition of those roles?
Those positions currently are working front desks, have a front desk presence here at City Hall. They are also working in the digital background where we're doing digital reservations for park space. They're working alongside animal control. They also are impacting and touching multiple divisions of service. So what you may find in other areas of municipal operation where there's one specific division of service and an admin person assigned to that division of service, what we have is 2 administrative people that are touching probably 6 or 7 different divisions. So we house them under one division from a budgetary ease standpoint, rather than saying 20% in this division, 20% in that division, 20% in another division from a cost capturing standpoint. So it's just easier for us to capture it under one budget. But again, they're touching numerous divisions of service.
And are these roles constituent facing?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just.
Those, yes.
For those roles. Okay, so then my next question eventually to the acting city manager is going to be, are all admin roles constituent facing, or are some of them back of house facing?
A number of them are primarily back of house facing, except for telephone calls. We have limited service windows in finance, community services, and public works, but a lot of the administrative positions that we have are effectively the people that are the first line on phone calls, mail inquiries along those lines, but not public facing in terms of having a direct customer response at a window.
Okay, and how are we preparing the evolution of these roles?
So this is one of the functions that has been expanding through IT and the work that they have been looking in terms of their expansion for preparing us with really looking at new software solutions, getting an assessment of our data resources and how we can build the city's sort of back-end database that we can make that migration and that shift. We have a lot of work to do in regards to our disparate data resources, ensuring that they are clean and they are really kind of centrally housed so that we can make that shift to these new technologies. Specifically, you were asking in regards to position expansions. In IT, the current fiscal year that we had expanded our IT department by 3 positions, and that was specifically associated with thinking about this type of activity, how we become that smarter city and really upgrade those services so these support units would be able to have better able to take advantage of those technologies coming.
Thank you so much. Let me clarify, just for those who are watching virtually, what I am not saying here, because people refer to me as the IT person and say that I'm trying to use IT to eliminate jobs. That is not what I'm getting at here. What I am trying to drill into is to ensure that we are prepared for the shift that is being driven by the technological evolutions of artificial intelligence. And the first jobs that those evolutions come for are very administrative heavy jobs that are being automated by productivity tools. And so that is why I am asking these questions, because I would never want anyone to be in a circumstance where their job is becoming obsolete and we are paying multiple roles at $60,000 a head to do jobs that are becoming obsolete when we are looking for cost savings. So that is what's driving my line of questioning. The next thing I want to point out, and then I promise you I'm almost done. The next thing I want to point out is across the IT department. Thank you so much, Director Spurgeon. But it's not necessarily a question for IT, because I know that there is an increase, and I want to be fair because I'm asking about other departments, so I don't want people to say, well, she didn't ask about the IT department. I know there's an increase and there's a rate of change in IT. We're doing a number of different things in IT that are just driving that change. We have a number of different software subscriptions. We have a number of different things that we just have to pay for as it pertains to software services. And so I just want to clarify that is why I'm not asking about the IT increase, because it is driven by things that are definedly laid out in the budget that are not deeply tied to headcount. And if it is tied to headcount, it's because it's necessary for our cybersecurity posture and all these other technological things that we must do as a growing city. The last point that I want to make for now is great recommendation on cost centers. Great recommendation. And the sooner we can implement that, the better. I used to run a budget at Amazon when I was formerly employed by them, and it made it very clear and very helpful for us to drill into specific things and understand the rate of change and just do different things. So how long would it take for us to get there? Is that a year turnaround time? Are we looking at next budget cycle, or what does that look like?
We'll see it in our next budget cycle.
Great to know. Okay, thank you so much, Mayor Stev. That concludes my questioning for now.
And as we continue to have meetings with the private sector about what they're willing to do on our behalf, definitely share if anyone is saying yes to our suggestions and ideas. Yes. Wonderful. Let's talk then. any of my other colleagues have any questions or thoughts? Mayor Pro Tem Wolfley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. A couple of thoughts and questions. I'll start with the smallest in terms of actual dollars, but it is a kind of an outlook issue and a matter of perspective. We have on our housing and property inspection program, we have, according to the budget, we estimate 1,100 single-family units and another 2,500 apartments. I think from my anecdotal observations that not everybody is complying with the requirement to have a permit and a license to rent. Do we have a program? In my mind, I see kind of a vision of, it's Monday morning and someone's job is to go through the rental listings and crosswalk the rental listings with our licensed renters and see if they are complying. Are we doing that?
Yes.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you so very much.
They are also making contact when a license expires with the property owners.
Yeah. It's not much money, but it's a philosophical issue of compliance.
Correct.
Thank you. Now on to more meaningful things. The Senior Center takes tremendous advantage, and it's unique. It's a unique organization, tremendous asset to the community. And we have, according to the budget book, about 45 volunteers, which I think is really a great way of extending reach without increasing costs. I'll take this back kind of as a homework assignment or thought. Are there any other parts of the organization which could benefit from a similar type arrangement? And I don't know what that would be, but I am sure, obviously, the Senior Center is very much a unique, animal, if you will, and its nature lends itself to having volunteers on hand. However, there may be some other opportunities. Has anybody thought about a different model on the staffing side? And if not, if someone wants to weigh in on a thought on that, and maybe just kind of take it as a, yeah, nice idea, but nothing there.
So I will share specifically within community services, also within planning and sustainability, a number of our outreach activities in terms of the groups that we associated with make use of volunteers. They tend to be more for their own projects and programs rather than I think what you're getting at in terms of delivering actual municipal service through a volunteer-based system in terms of doing that. I have been, one of my previous organizations, we had a full-time staff person who was a volunteer coordinator. Their sole function was to identify opportunities within the organization that could be taken up through volunteer work, and they coordinated with the departments in terms of generating the volunteers to conduct various activities throughout the organization. I was not there when that program started. I only saw it when it was fully formed and developed, but from my understanding, it took many years worth of work and focused effort to generate that reliable base of volunteers to provide those consistent work hours that had that productivity for the organization. It is possible. A lot of it ends up being the culture of the community matched with the culture of the organization.
Okay. The Youth Services Bureau additionally has 35 teen mentors that are all volunteers as well.
Okay, thank you. Which is a nice segue, which leads into the next question on youth services. So we have a group, I don't know if it's 10 or some such number of folks that are working in youth services. To what extent is that duplicative of services that are available through the county or through private medical insurance and that sort of thing?
I'll speak more on the county side. I would say they're not synonymous. You know, they're not. They're more complementary than they are mirroring. Our youth services actually does a healthy dose of in-person counseling for Bowie residents right here in our neighborhoods, right here in their community. They're doing the outreach directly in the schools. They're going to the schools. They're meeting, you know, individuals that need the resources. It is not the same as what the county is offering.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from any of my colleagues? Councilmember Rogers.
These are quick and these are easy. So when you say, for instance, for your commodities and that usually is stuff that supports your operations, I'm assuming that the city is using a contract vehicle that allows more than one party or shared parties to provide those services, so that the city is not taking on the entire burden, or the city is more efficient in using the contractual services for commodities. Say, for instance, you're ordering all the office paper from one contract vehicle, and it becomes more cost efficient or cost effective for the city. This is real basic stuff.
Yeah, so one of the main areas that we have that in is under the city manager's budget in the business operations section. A lot of those sort of general supplies, general commodities are wrapped up contained within business operations. Business operations has administrative support for the front desk, for the city manager's office, but also takes on a larger supply role. I will say that this is probably not universal. We have some opportunity where we could be getting additional gain in regards to those single purchasing vehicles, but we do utilize that to a good degree. But I think we have some opportunity for improvement, speaking to your point.
Okay, do we have any partnerships with other municipalities around certain administrative type contracts?
I don't believe we do. You have any in your shop?
No.
Okay.
Majority of our procurement is going to fall back to the facilities, maintenance, mechanical, construction, engineering, professional services, and Public Works and Community Services share contract opportunities, and we also ride state and county opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Another question in regard to lobbyist services. I see that we spend $133,700. Is that for both federal and state? And have we been taking advantage of federal, or is it one lobbyist that does both?
No, those are the two different firms. Venable associated with the federal lobbying, and then Cornerstone with the state lobbying that we have. The most productive in terms of dollars received would be the federal lobbying that we have by far in regards to direct resources coming to the city.
Okay. Then my last question is, has the city looked at all its land resources that it owns across the municipality to at least have a good idea of what's owned and what's its value?
Yes, since we discussed this last week, Mr. Hall has gone back. The city I believe it was 2021 or 2022, had met with the city council previously to discuss a number of our properties, what our holdings are. Mr. Hall has that list, and he's in the process of verifying and updating that. But we do have a list of. We've actually got a couple lists. We've got a list of all city properties. A lot of those are, small little corners of pieces of property that you can't do much with. But we have another list in terms of things that are of larger size and potentially have some viability to be repurposed.
Oh, okay, repurposed or sold?
Yeah, we get to decide.
Yeah, okay, great. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Acting City Manager.
Anything on the first round from any of my colleagues? All right, round two. Councilmember Ndebu Madu.
Hi again. Okay, thank you, Mayor Esteve. Okay, my second round, things that came up while my colleagues were talking. This is really mainly for my, for staff in terms of what we need to do. It's been a long night, so I don't remember correctly. I know that I'm creating a new revenue category or increasing one. I know that shopping center fines are kind of capped due to state regulation in terms of what we can fine shopping centers when there are municipal infractions. Where does that stand? Has anything changed on the state level or on the county level to allow us to increase our potential fines?
Mm-hmm. That increased recently, correct?
Yeah, so in the last legislative session, might have been the one before, the maximum fine for municipal infraction citations increased from $1,000 to $5,000.
And we did adopt that locally here, so that is available to us.
Okay, and since that, and sorry, can you remind me, when did that increase happen?
A year ago, maybe.
I think it happened after the 25 session.
Okay, and we have adopted that.
We have amended the provisions that allow us, we've implemented the authority to increase fines. I don't believe we have used the maximum fines, to the best of my recollection, yet. I think the code is in the process of being reviewed for a determination of where it is appropriate, where the current fines are not achieving the expected compliance.
Okay, and what is our timeline on that update?
That is not a project I am working on.
Oh, Acting City Manager or Director Spurgeon, do we have a timeline update?
We can get one for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That follow-up would be helpful. And then if once you have that update, if you can bring that back and then what the process going forward or the strategy will be there, that will be extremely helpful. Let me also add a caveat there from my constituency in District 4 that might be listening. It is not my intention to drive business owners out of Bowie. That is not what I'm hinting at here. What I am hinting at is specifically in District 4, I won't name any names today, but we have a bunch of different negligent shopping center owners who have refused to invest in their shopping centers and who have left them dilapidated. And so that is my objective there, to bring them in alignment with the City of Bowie's standards. And then, if that makes sense for us to collect revenues off of it, that's great too. So that is my intention there. So I look forward to that follow-up. And then my second question is in regards to things like youth services, dovetailing off of Mayor Pro Tem's question on the county, or I should say NGO overlap. Over the last couple of years, has community services as a department had an exercise to kind of see where we can offset some of that through different NGOs that are providing that services, inviting them into the city, or looking at ways to expand in partnership with other organizations there?
I know our youth services director, Wendy Wilcox, has regular and routine conversations with both county and statewide associations. She's looking at opportunities for partnerships, both at the county level, at the school level, Board of Education, and with sister agencies. She also is very passionate about trying to secure grant funding and has been successful with doing so. She's a main driver there with grant funding and has been successful.
Okay, I think this is probably going to be reflective of my overall next comment. I think that we need to, I guess you've heard me talk a lot tonight about external capital because I know it's out there. I think we need to kind of really holistically start to shift into thematic investment areas instead of kind of department subject areas. The reason why I say this is because, for example, when there was a storage facility coming to District 4, the one that we opposed and tried to fight, but it ended up coming anyways, what we did was match them with Catholic Charities and say, hey, Catholic Charities provides a particular programmatic area that we want to expand, but we cannot expand as a city government. So since county bill requires that you must place an NGO in this space for free, the conversation was then brokering a connection between Catholic Charities and them to provide that service that we did not want to pay for. And so I definitely think that we really need to shift our mindset to thematic investment areas. I'll give you an example of this because I keep talking about external capital. Last week, we had a conversation on this dais about our lobbyists sending out an entire list of federal money and state money that was out there. So let me give you a great example. In our budget, we do a lot around, like, example number one, traffic, street safety. We do street resurfacing, traffic management things. Our lobbyists sent an analysis, and on that analysis, there was the SS4A program, Safe Streets and Roads for All. Instead of us funding that area, why are we not tapping into these types of programs? And so this is what I mean by, like, we need to shift our posture into thematic, programmatic areas to position ourselves to be investable by external entities. Like when we talk about youth services, there are a number of different organizations and NGOs out there that we could be partnering with and offsetting the cost to them because billionaires and multimillionaires have already funded these organizations to provide these very exact services. And so I would like to see us, you know, I've talked about this, but just further ideas for this exercise that, you know, you can look at having with staff later. I'd like to see us really shift into thematic areas and really look intentionally about what other partnerships we could be having. Emerson Collective is a great example. They're funding things up and down in this area, but we don't get any funding from Emerson Collective. Or Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities raised $16 million literally in like a month. And they fund all sorts of programs that are very similar to this, but we don't, you know, get any funding from this. And so I'm really trying to get us in a place where capital stops moving all around us and we start to capture that capital as well. Another example is our stormwater programs. There's clean water state revolving funds. Are we tapping into that? We have the EDA Build to Scale program for economic development. We've got Land and Water Conservation Fund. We've got energy efficiency and conservation block grants. There's just so many different areas. So I think as a next step too, one, we definitely need to meet with our lobbyists, federal and state, which we've talked about a little bit, but we need to actually align and have that meeting. And I think what we need to be armored with are the thematic areas so that we can position accordingly to capture the capital that we need to capture that's out there that we're not getting. And so I really think going forward, external revenue and capturing external, it needs to be a revenue strategy for us, not just a residential tax bucket. Like that needs to be just as important as a strategy as residential property taxes are. And so that is where I'm trying to get us to shift our posture. That concludes my comments for this round. Thank you.
Staff, to that point, can we make sure that in the next week we schedule a meeting with our federal and state lobbyists and also probably separately and also specifically use it as an opportunity to go through the programs Councilmember Ndibu Madu referenced with the appropriate staff so we can evaluate what we're eligible for and what not. And go ahead.
We are meeting with it in the next week, or we are scheduling? Okay. Yeah, we can certainly work on that. I've had conversations with each of them. They would like to meet with the council as well. We were generally discussing shortly after the budget is adopted when we've cleared the decks a little bit. Is that a little too late?
I see a broad agreement from my council colleagues.
Yeah.
We're not going to get these $20 million of funds in the next 3 weeks. Okay. Anything else from any of my colleagues? Nothing at all? All right. Thank you for a very good discussion. I'm sorry?
I think you better hurry up before I come up with something else.
That's okay. We're gonna take our time. Okay. We're gonna take our time.
So, quick question on the survey. Is that something that you'd like us to get out real quick?
Yeah, so team, we're looking at a paper copy of the survey that Acting Manager Mears presented to us. I just noted on question 8, how often do you use the following city service categories? Council services is on there. I wasn't aware I was providing any. Am I misunderstanding something?
That was probably from.
We could eliminate the city council. I think that'd save us, what, $500,000?
Yeah,
No?
that was probably thinking in regards to constituent services. We will strike that in the indication that the council provides no services. I understand what you're saying. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to just kind of ask a couple of clarifying questions. Whenever you do a survey,
Yeah.
you're obviously looking for certain types of information. So when you get this information back, or let me just put it this way, what do you expect to get from residents when you send them out a survey asking them about their services?
Yeah. This, as I was alluding to previously, is very challenging in terms of the breadth of services that we have. Our folks were looking at the wide range of services that we have. How do we possibly list them all? There is certainly a number of things that are listed, here contained within the survey, but it does not capture the full breadth of what the city does. Likewise, we have a lot of services that are sort of ubiquitous that everybody receives. Trash collection being one, but a lot of services that are much more niche in their flavor. Is a recreational program happening at an individual facility, may service 30 residents, but it's also very low cost. One of the things we were really thinking about this was really providing the residents yet another outlet to reach the council. A lot of these responses were intended to be more open-ended, where people could express what they wanted to express rather than selecting from a drop-down box of a number of things, and that we would utilize some of the tools for artificial intelligence to sort of aggregate the themes that come about from the community. I think we're not going to be living in a survey that has a very high standard of statistical relevance. It is going to be more of a feeling and an impression that our residents are coming back to you all, and we're going to aggregate that information so you can see the broad areas that people are concerned about, what they value, and maybe what they have a little less value in terms of our services.
So then you're going to use this data to provide input into the services that we may consider cutting, or services that we consider to remain the same way?
I think it fits with both of these. The idea is that we aggregate this quick survey back, get it to the council. You use that as an additional information point in addition to the listening sessions and all the communications you're already having with your constituents. Just a slightly different input form that hopefully we can reach some more folks with.
So now, have you done a test of the survey on any in-house staff that may live in Bowie, just to see what kinds of responses that you get? I'm concerned that when this goes out, that although it says it helps guide the decisions for the 2027 budgets, I do believe that most people want to maintain the services that they've received. So that's why I'm asking, these questions. Once you get the data back, and that's why I said, if you test it on someone within, the office to see how they may respond to the questions, objectively, or maybe they have their sister or father or mother, look at it. that gives us a better feel for the types of responses that we get. Because what we don't want to do is put a document out there, a survey, and individuals come back and say, I want it all, and I don't want you to raise my taxes. And that's a big concern. I mean, it really is. So we want to make sure that it's useful, and the data that you get back will be data that can be used in how we go about making our decisioning regarding services provided.
We have not done a test run of that, and I think your comment is highly accurate in regards to a lot of the response that we would get. A number of the constituent correspondence that I have seen has been exactly that. Please keep all our services, don't lose anything, we love them too much, and also keep costs exactly where they are today. It's an impossible situation, but I can certainly see where that's a natural reaction from all of our residents.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Acting City Manager, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, colleagues. Councilmember Brady.
Thank you. Following up on my colleague's question with regard to this survey. First off, let me apologize. I went to pull this up because she told me that you sent this out. And Verizon has isolated me from the world. My FiOS is down, so I don't have internet, don't have email, don't have TV, don't have telephone. So this is the first I've seen it. I appreciate that. I do have some concerns. The handful of questions here, they seem more kind of, what do I want to say, feel-good kind of questions rather than data-driven questions. And I'm concerned that we won't get an accurate picture of where our citizens are. And it's kind of like the question number 4, what services do you value most? Well, I'll bet you everyone's going to say, I value the police department, but they may never have had an experience with them. So therefore, the experience part may be more important than the feeling part, if you understand where I'm coming from. But I think all of these questions are the feeling part, and I think really maybe some questions should be in there, like asking what 3 services have you utilized, and then ask for their opinion of the quality of the service that they received. Do something like that rather than just have feel-good questions, if you understand where I'm going. So I think maybe retool this just a little bit to where you can get data on citizens' response to this actual service rather than the idea of the service, if you understand. So that would be my input. Thank you, Mayor.
Is there a general consensus from the council on Councilmember Brady's point as highlighted in question number 4? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, actually, there's, generally speaking, I would agree, but I think in this time of budget constraints, it's more about whether or not I fund it for you. If someone is only marginally satisfied with the service, that's not the same thing as saying that they'd be okay with getting rid of it, or that cutting it down in half, or it shouldn't be as, it may or may not be a higher priority, even though you're not as satisfied. But to your point, I think we ought to have some surveys going around about satisfaction levels on surveys for satisfaction levels on all the services we provide to kind of garner some opportunities for improvement. But I'm fine with adding some additional questions and clarity on it.
So ultimately, I think we were putting this out as another means to see if you feel that this would provide you some useful information in terms of your deliberations over the next couple of weeks. Certainly understand that this is not comprehensive. This was intended to be quick, and to Councilmember Brady's point, it is a bit more value and feeling laden rather than practical in terms of direct satisfaction in regards to overall satisfaction levels with the varying services. So we do not need to do the survey. We wanted to know if this was something of value to you that you feel you would like to see what people had to say.
I'm getting a sense from my colleagues that there's a desire to maybe talk a little bit more about it as a group. I think, just speaking for myself, the information we need, we had a long meeting tonight. We don't have a list of things we're canceling yet. And so let's be blunt, what we need is a list of things from residents we're willing to cut, FTEs we're willing to eliminate, offices we're willing to close, facilities we're willing to shutter, sell, or spin off to a third party. That's what we need. Absent that, this is all hot air, right? So I think this needs to be geared towards pick 3 to 5 things from the list you'll want to see gone. I suspect residents are going to pick the things they're simply least familiar with. We'll have to factor that in as we talk, because oftentimes we get rid of something that people say is not popular, and then 200 people show up, all 200 who think it's the most essential thing on earth, and we regret that decision. But my sense is that's probably where we're going to need to gear this fact-finding, and I will leave it to my colleagues. Let's give ourselves a deadline of, let's say, tomorrow, Tuesday, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, to write feedback on this particular survey, and then staff by, hopefully Wednesday morning, we can have it ready to go out. What that means is that this will not be ready until our second listening session on Thursday. So that will not give us a ton of time, but we can start advertising it, midweek as soon as it's approved and get it out there. I'm hearing some murmurs. Go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor Stubb. It would be nice if it could, I'm thinking about for maximum engagement, if we could have a QR code ready at the listening session for people to scan tomorrow, that would be great. The more we delay that, the lower engagement becomes.
From a time frame, from what we were thinking of for the staff is any feedback that you had, we would push a survey, even if it's the one question version, one that you were asking, out to the community beginning tomorrow morning. It be advertised and on the street until probably Friday morning, and then we close that out, compile the results on Friday afternoon, and get them out to you all in advance of your discussions beginning next Monday. I don't think we have a long time horizon. It would only be out for a couple of days if we decided tonight.
Understood. I don't think my colleagues are objecting to questions 1 through 3 at all. Councilmember Brady raised question 4 as an example of the kind of thing that he wanted to have more data-based. We could potentially leave that out and simply jump immediately to question, where is it? Yeah, most of them are value-based now. I hear what you're saying, Councilmember. Question 9, question 10, and question 11. We could jump to 9, 10, and 11 because that kind of gets us immediately to brass tacks of what do you want us to cut?
Okay, so I'm seeing a survey that is questions 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, 11. So 9 is services the city could discontinue, 10 is budget priority trade-off question, and 11 is essentially an open-ended, tell us what you want to tell us.
I would say, given the time frame, I'm not sure it's worth trying to parse it any further. I would agree that there's some things that I might change in an ideal world, but I'm willing to live with whatever the data looks like when I get it, with recognizing the limitations.
I like the 9, 10.
Okay.
I do like it to get some level of data. So I do like the, you said the 1, 2, 3, and the 9, 10, not so much 11, unless, you just give people an opportunity to kind of share their thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, that was actually really intentional to have 11 on there
Okay.
because
Then I'm fine with that. That gives you a start, it doesn't mean that we can't do something else later.
Now, I agree with Councilmember Rogers, and what I would propose is we keep the list of services from question 4 available for reference in the survey, so residents have, you know, a frame of reference and a reminder of what we're actually doing. Okay. Any other thoughts from any of my colleagues? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for getting us through this long night. Do we need a motion to move to room 181 for our next discussion? Or are we still in closed session? We just wander over?
You already had your motion earlier, so
Beautiful.
we are just adjourning the work session.
We're adjourning to work session then, ladies and gentlemen. See you in 181.